All right, I'm in the top right. I'm going to introduce it and then throw it over to the Rhino, but welcome to the Mets Weekly Roundtable. We have a lot of injuries to talk about. We have a lot of future stuff of this team to talk about, some other stuff, and, our usual traditions. So welcome to the Mets Weekly Roundtable, and sorry we've been out for the last 2 weeks, but we are back. Let's go.
This is Frank Cugino from Frank About Sports.
What's going on, guys? Andrew Acevedo back.
What's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden is the name.
What is going on, everybody? This is Metsfan from YouTube.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm TonyMetro.
Big Apple Banter Media here with Elias. That's weekly.
Mets Weekly.
Mets Weekly.
Mets Weekly.
Mets Weekly.
Welcome to Mets Weekly.
Whoa. Why wouldn't he be? I mean, what's going on here?
I killed you the other day.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
late games, we don't know. Maybe you got a little drunk in San Francisco. We don't know. So we'll start with Frank. How are you? What do you got? What you got percolating?
Listen, I am very tired from watching these ridiculous games and waking up to seeing final scores of 13-12 and everything in between. But, as we're going to talk about, there's a lot going on with this Mets team. They're going to head into a really big stretch of games. So that should make for some pretty interesting content depending on how everything goes. So Frank About Sports is the name. Usually do live streams. I try to do every Sunday. This Sunday might be a little tough with the Sunday Night Baseball, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Mets Talk with Hayden. What do you got percolating?
What's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden is the name. It's definitely been a little bit since I've been on here. I know I missed one stream. I was away in New York. Definitely good to be back up there. But, I've been doing a lot of live streams from the most part, recapping all the series and all that stuff. So definitely feel free to check me out if you guys not already. And, I love GM. Let's talk some Mets baseball.
Yeah, Tub, you on it? You want to say anything before we break it in?
I'm a Mets fan. I like baseball, but I'm anxiously watching the Rangers right now. So if I may be distractive, I'll still be my sunshine self. But let's go Mets. Let's go Rangers. The Penguins blew a 3-1 lead. Haha, go fuck yourself. Move on.
All right. So, again, we haven't been on in 2 weeks, so we've got 2 weeks of games we could break down. We could just talk about the Giants series, but the last 2 weeks, break down what have been your main takeaways of the last 2 weeks of Mets baseball. I'll start with Frank. Old man, you had a tough stretch. I know you probably went to bed when it was 8-2 with the San Francisco game, but break down what St. Louis, San Francisco, what are your main takeaways?
Right. It actually was 8-4 when I fell asleep. So, I mean, give me some credit. I tried to stay up as late as I could. But, it's tough when you get older and you got responsibilities. But my takeaway is that the pitching depth is a problem. I mean, the Mets, we're going to get into it, very specific injuries and things like that. But I'll tell you what, this team cannot have any other pitchers get hurt because we got nothing left. I mean, I still cannot believe, even though it was yesterday, how bad that start was from Thomas Sabucky. And there's just the fact that it's like the Mets are going to find themselves in a position where you can't have these bad starts. I mean, Chris Bassett couldn't get the job done, and you had to completely tire out the bullpen. Trevor Williams had that bad game on Saturday, completely tire out the bullpen. Eventually, things like that really takes its toll on the team, and you see guys who are effective all of a sudden not be as effective. I wonder if you're having Drew Smith have all these outings where he's going 2 innings plus, pitching a lot, if all of a sudden he's not as effective. So, I mean, that's my concern is that they really have got to do whatever it takes to keep these guys healthy. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Or add depth, add pitching, because right now they're in a really tricky spot, and they just have to really hope that no one else gets hurt.
Yeah, again, upcoming video. I didn't get to plug my intro, but upcoming video talking about that. Hayden, main takeaways, Giants, Cardinals. Who else do we play? Seattle. We haven't talked in Seattle and the J-Rod show. Main takeaways the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, the Mets are playing good baseball. I mean, I think to say for the least. Obviously, a couple frustrating moments, but listen, you're winning more than losing. So, it's more positive than negative. overall, I mean, the bats seem to be stepping up. We know they've been a little quiet. You know, they'll have a little bit of a streak where they'll be quiet, and then they'll really blow up. In Colorado, I kind of wish we saw a little bit more offensive production. I kind of wish we saw a little bit more home runs, some more power to boost up some of these guys' stats, and that would have been acceptable out there. But that's all right. I mean, you took 2 or 3 from there. I mean, losing the San Francisco Giants series wasn't ideal. It would have been nice to win it, but what are you going to do? It's baseball. That happens. Overall, yeah, I mean, the pitching, I think, is going to be the concern down the line. I mean, Chris Bassett coming off of a really unfortunate start. He really got roughed up. Starting Thomas Shitpucky yesterday really was not ideal. Yeah, I mean, you know, that number 5 spot is going to be of question. David Peterson, I didn't even know the dude is a fan club, but he has been phenomenal in the 4 or 5 starts that he started for the Mets. So I really think Peterson can be a defined 4th starter. But that 5th role is going to be questionable. I don't know why they didn't start Williams yesterday. I mean, keep in mind that's 5 days or 4 days. You had him go multiple innings, so why not have him start the multiple innings? I don't know.
Because somebody else gonna have to come in. That's the problem. Is that even if Williams starts, because of what happened the night before with the 13 runs, the Mets had to go to somebody. You know, I mean, that's just where they were at right now.
And little did they know that's a Shitpucky, as I like to call him, was going to implode and go one-third of an inning and give up 9 runs. So that's unfortunate. But overall, let's get a little positive. I'm not trying to bash the Mets. Yeah, they've been playing acceptable baseball. I mean, Lindor's really blowing up the San Francisco Giants series. Love what I'm seeing Lindor, that nice tight swing, phenomenal. The power, extra base hits, the speed. Lindor's looking good. Big meat Pete Alonso's been phenomenal. The power, the opposite field contact, phenomenal. Love Alonso. Mcneil, tip of the cap to Mcneil. This dude has been insane. Putting the ball in play. Love Mcneil. Canna, Marte, Escobar has been warming up a little bit. The offense is looking good. You know, you're coming off a big series. Hopefully they can keep it ahead. And the pitching, hopefully they can hold it down. That middle end of the rotation or the bullpen is going to be of question. But overall, I like what we've been seeing. But health is the number one concern.
Yeah. Of course. Metsfan, general takeaways. I know me and you watched the whatever that game on Tuesday was. What do you break down analytically?
I'm not even gonna get into that, to be honest. That was gut wrenching. I don't even want to talk about that. To be honest, I want to talk about the bright spots. I want to be positive. Colin Holder is going to be a stud. I'm a huge fan of this kid. Explosive swing and miss stuff, induces ground balls. I mean, everyone is noticing the elite ability of Edwin Diaz or Adam Ottavino or Drew Smith. I'm on to my next project. Colin Holderman, buy stock now. This kid is something else. And then number 2, he's not here with us. He was not able to join us today, but TonyMetro is a menace to society, okay? And I'm going to tell you why, all right? Edwin Diaz and Drew Smith have been untouchable. They've been elite, a force to be reckoned with. And then as soon as this man says, Carson, I was wrong about these guys, I apologize. These guys lay an egg faster than a horny ostrich. I mean, they say the Tony effect isn't real, okay? And they're wrong, all right? Don't mess with the dynamic. He's killing me, man. I don't know what that pisses me off. That's it. That's all I got to say. And that's all I got to take away from it, because we've been watching so many games in between here, and it's too much takeaways. Just break it down one by one.
Yeah, again, looking back, I mean, the Giants series, you would have liked to take 2 out of 3, obviously make another big crazy ass comeback, just to fall short. But again, you start in Shitpucky, and the depth has been, been tested. Or is a guy in AA, which we'll talk about later. Just saying, get him up. Obviously, I think they're going to make another move. I think there should be a bargain bin you can find just to hopefully get 2 to 3 fluky starts until you get a Jake or Megill or somebody else back. You just need, that's all the Mets kind of need, is a 2 to 3, a fluke 2 to 3 week stretch, 3 start stretch where they pitch the best baseball of their career and they go back to being whatever they are. So that's where the Mets need to find some depth. Could be a trade, could be some random Trevor Cahill, obviously he needs to be stretched out, but someone like that. If the Mets can find some guy off the scrap heap, can give you 2 average to above average starts, it's really what the Mets need to get Megill back, and then obviously getting the big 2 later. Moving on, let's see if we get a second. Let this load in so the rest of the chat can see it. Honestly, he just added this. It's taking forever to add. All right, move on. Jacob, well, I guess we'll talk Jacob Degrom. I guess we'll do that because this is taking forever for me to get impact. There we go. Injuries. Like I said with Tyler Megill, Max Scherzer added with an oblique strain. James McCann, obviously, with a handmake bone on his opposite hand, which we thought it was when he took a foul ball in the Mariners series, correct? I think it was Seattle. Where he got hit. We thought Seattle Seattle. Yeah, we thought it was that. It's the opposite hand. Obviously, Megill with the bicep tendonitis. What is the overall impact? And have we started to see the impacts of these injuries? I'll start with Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, 3 injuries in the span of 2 weeks is not ideal for the Mets. Keep in mind, exactly around last year at this time is when the Cohen collapse happened. Overall, I don't think the injuries are going to be a huge concern this year. I mean, Degrom and Scherzer were kind of expected. I think everyone could say that we all knew that Scherzer wasn't going to make all 30 of his starts. We knew that wasn't going to happen. But if we could take, 20, 19, then that's ideal. Overall, unfortunate with Scherzer. I was his windup's kind of weird if it's an oblique strain. He's really not. I guess it's his left leg. He's kind of putting a lot of pressure on it. I don't know. It's weird with Scherzer's windup, but overall, very unfortunate that occurred with Scherzer. As soon as that happened, I'm like, yep, something bad's gonna go down. And with old age, he's 37 years old. I mean, that was something that I think we all, like I said, realized when we signed this dude. He wasn't going to make all 30. I believe it's 30. Correct me if I'm wrong. All 30 of his starts. We all knew that. But overall, we'll see how it is. I mean, it's been, a week, 2 weeks already. So, we'll hopefully 5-6 weeks can come and he'll be back on the mound pitching. Megill, yeah, unfortunate for Megill. I guess I don't want to say it's good that he got hurt, but it's relieving to know the reason he pitched very poorly his last outing could be indirect because of that injury, with the bicep. So we'll see with Megill also. I mean, he was thrown at Citi Field, so hopefully he can get back into his rhythm and, get back on the mound and continue to pitch exactly how he was prior to that. And, of course, James McCann, who, not many Met fans would really seem to have missed him, but I guess Mazika and Nito have been holding down the fort a little bit. More so credit goes to Mazika. Who cares about the first outing with Mazika? Him and Bassett weren't really communicating well. You got the clutch hit, so that's all that matters. But, the absence for McCann, who really thought would have been so huge. But it seems Mazika's holding down the fort pretty nice. Much better than last year, I will say. Even offensively, he's providing some offense, which is obviously needed for the catcher's position. So, overall, the impact, it's unfortunate. Is it going to leave a dent? Absolutely. I think Megill and Scherzer are gone. They're temporarily gone. Will leave a dent. Same for McCann, but luckily the catcher's offense and catcher's defense is holding up. But, with the pitching, you could hope. How much longer is Williams going to last? How much longer is Peterson going to last? Keep in mind, Peterson last year, he had a phenomenal April, okay May, and then was just horrible leading up to June, May. So hopefully these guys can come back soon, just because I am a little worried on how much longer it's going to last for Williams with Peterson. So we'll see.
Sorry about that. My Wi-Fi is giving me an RKO, having problems. Frank, what is your overall impact of these 2 injuries in the rotation and losing our all-star catcher?
The overall impact on the injuries is the fact that Thomas Szapucki made a start. If you had Tyler Megill there, if you had Max Scherzer there, Thomas Szapucki's coming nowhere near this major league team. So that shows you right there. And like we say, when it comes to double headers, days off, things like that. You're just going to have to work out, I mean, do we have to keep sending down Negosik and sending down Medina, wasting these guys' options so much with just the instability of the pitching because of the injuries? So that's something that is really going to be probably the make or break for this team as we get into these stretch of games. The McCann thing, I mean, it's tough because Mazika has done better than we could have hoped for, I would say, especially offensively. He loves that right field line. I mean, if you look at this guy's spray chart, just about every single hit is right on that right field line. He's just out there. He's just pulling it out there. So, but he's done, like Hansen showed some improvement defensively. I mean, Tomas Neves, the lead framing, doesn't matter how many runs they score when he catches because the framing is good. The CDA is good. So there's nothing to worry about there. But still, I think you need your all-star guy there to calm pitchers down and call a good game and do all the great things that
he doesn't do that.
You need some ground balls here or there. You need some swinging at sliders way out of the zone every now and again. So you need some dances. I mean, so those are the things that I miss about having James McCann. And also, the most important thing that James McCann does, which goes so under the radar, nobody talks about it, but to put Carson Metsfan in misery and troll him. I mean, James McCann is worth the contract just for that alone. So I really miss the guy. Get well soon, James. Can't wait to have you back.
Don't forget that McCann and Nito can't throw anybody out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look at Real Muto throwing the ball in the outfield. I mean, McCann would never. 120.
McCann would never. Metsfan, Sylor, Mad Max, and McChicken all on the IL. What's the impact?
Who gives a shit? All right. Who cares about James McCann? No one cares. All right. Tomas Nito, elite defender, can't hit a baseball. It's like he never left. Patrick Mazika, greatest player ever. Who fucking cares? And if McCann was so important to this team, Frank, why don't you tell him to not hurt himself from jerking off too much? All right. How about that? You guys like this guy just to spite me, okay? You're all sheep, whatever. As for the impact,
I'm a Rhino.
Shut up. As for the impact of Megill and Scherzer yesterday's game, I think it's pretty much an understatement to call that brutal. I'm not going to lie, the rest of the rotation to lose their top guys like that is concerning. Pitchers tend to overthink. The mental game is a slippery slope. That's a given. We knew that with a relatively older staff that this was going to happen. I know we've talked about they just replaced Scherzer, replaced Syndergaard and Stroman with Scherzer and Bassett. But I do like some of the options that we have. Guys like Jose Buto and guys like Connor Gray and guys like Josh Walker. You don't have to flip the entire roster and make a panic trade. There's only one thing that you need to do, and that is survive. We're obviously going to cross Thomas Sapucki off the list. And listen, I know Jake's return is still a little bit iffy. We'll get into that in a few minutes. Scherzer will be back by the All-Star break. Megill will look like he's coming back in 2 weeks. It's a day-by-day type of thing. And Bassett is going to be fine. No one shoves better than him, especially after a bad start. Carrasco just needs to be a 2 to 3 run ball. Walker just needs to not suck for just one more month. And there's no need to really hit the panic button in May. I trust Georme Hefner to do his job. And I'm not saying they shouldn't add. I'm not saying that. You can never have enough pitching. That's a given, but I'm just not really losing sleep over this yet. But we have to stop acting like this wasn't going to happen with the age of our rotation. And this is a win now team. That was something that you really expected. And in May right now, I'm not really panicking, especially when you have those valuable options that can start. All you really need is to just survive. There's no real, it's basically just try to get quality and see what you get. And there's nobody that I trust more than Georme Hefner to get this pitching staff going. So it's whatever. And then James McCann, like I said, who gives a flying shit?
Just keep in mind, everyone, Jason Ramirez are rocking a nice 88 WRC plus, so 120 million money.
Yeah,
well
and what's
spent.
James McCann? Who cares?
It doesn't matter. I mean, for the money disparity,
we're talking about James McCann. Nobody gives a crap about JT Realmuto right now.
We're just saying.
God,
we're just saying. You know, options aren't that greener. You know, think about it. Would you rather have 6 years or 4 years? Take your guess. Again, Megill, Scherzer. You knew it was going to happen. Jordan Yamamoto, it did just pitch with Brooklyn, so he could be coming. I mean, that is an option internally that nobody said. He pitched for Brooklyn, I think, yesterday. Only threw 2 innings, though, which for some reason kind of a shorter outing for him. Pitched good, but just still 2 innings down in Brooklyn. We don't know how the regime, obviously they DFA'd him, and we made a big deal about it, but, you know, that could be a guy, gave it a week or couple weeks or two. Another guy internally, like I said earlier, they signed Trevor Cahill. Tommy Hunter's already hurt now, and he's not really a starter, but again, and obviously Mets fans got to steal my boy Budo, but yeah, we'll get to him later. Yes, and then McChicken, you got to have McChicken. Steve Cohen needs to get this done. We need a brand deal. Every time James McCann hits an exit velo over 100, we should get a free McChicken at McDonald's. Think about the marketing of McChicken with McChicken. That just makes sense. Steve, get it done. Moving on to, we're talking about injuries. How about the most important person that's injured, and that is Jacob Degrom. Let's see how long. Actually, not bad. My internet isn't kicking me in the dick right now. Great. We just saw him throwing a little bullpen. And all of Twitter, or not even a bullpen, but throwing a baseball from about 100 feet. And Twitter did not overreact and did not, lay a biscuit. And the Mets internally think John Heyman was the first to put it out. The Mets internally think a realistic return is late June. Do you believe that, or is it John Heyman and his overrated Arby's opinions? What is a more realistic timetable? I'll start with Tub.
This just makes me ask a follow-up question. Does DeGrom think late June is realistic? I mean, he's the only one I really trust with his health, and it's going to continue to stay that way. I would love for him to get another full month of spring training and at least get him to that point where he can go to 5 to 6 innings. I'm still sticking with after the All-Star break or around July. But the healing process has been good to see, and we need him healthy. That's the end of the thing. We need him 100% healthy. He's Jacob Degrom. He's our top guy. So, I mean, we've said this too many times. Go ahead.
Hayden, realistic time is June realistic, and if not, what is?
Yeah, I mean, I think June could be realistic. I mean, if we're talking like the last couple of days, obviously considering today is May 26th, that would mean a month. And the thing is, DeGrom would need a month of spring training, like Carson said. He's going to need a full-on month of spring training. I mean, the good thing about DeGrom is, I trust him when he talks about how he feels. He's a guy who in the past has been said he knows his body well, and I trust DeGrom on what he says. If anything, I probably trust him more than half of the medical staff for this Mets team. So I think June could be realistic. I would more say towards like July 15th, just given a random day. Like maybe like the week or two before the All-Star break could be a nice little thing for him. Just because you're going to have to get the spring training start. He's going to make rehab starts probably in Brooklyn. That wouldn't be surprising. Who knows? Maybe you'll have some in Port St. Lucie again, and then the Palm Beach Cardinals will be getting no hit. I think we all remember that last year. That was pretty funny. But yeah, I think more mid-July is going to be a realistic timetable for DeGrom.
And the Cardinals are shitting their pants because they do play the Mets on like June 16th through the 20th.
Yeah, I saw that. Was
get funny. Prepared. Nightmares are coming, West Palm Cardinals. Frank,
maybe I'll go to some of those games. We'll see.
We know Jake's an older pitcher. You're an older man. You know how the body works at the old age. Is a month, is June, late June a realistic timetable, or, you thinking a little longer for Jake?
I think that because of how important Jacob Degrom is, I would like to see him back in July. If we're going to bring Jake back, he needs to stay back. I've said it a million times, but I'm going to say it again. I do not want another scenario where it's like, oh, DeGrom's back, guys. Here we go. He's making a start for the Major League team. Third inning, he's walking out and he's in the dugout and he go into the clubhouse. I don't want that anymore. If DeGrom is back, I want him all the way back. I want his arm built up in all the minor league starts and rehab starts he has to do. This way, when Jacob DeGrom comes back, he's not coming back to throw 70 pitches. He's coming back to be Jacob freaking DeGrom. And that guy, I mean, and the other thing I want to see is how are they going to treat the velocity situation? Are they going to make a concerted effort to be like, don't throw 102. You don't need to throw 102. You could still get the job done with 97, with 96. We've seen him do it before. I just think he's smart enough and he's just a good enough all-around pitcher to pull it off that I think that Jacob DeGrom's – even if – this is my thing with Jacob DeGrom. I would rather Jacob DeGrom be a little worse than his 102 self he was in 2021 if it means he's going to be healthy. Because just like 80% of last year's DeGrom, that's good enough. I mean, because 80% of DeGrom is 100% better than Thomas Apucky. I mean, that's the way you have to look at it. So, I mean, having this guy out there, he doesn't have to swing the bat anymore. He doesn't have to run the bases anymore. So there should be no excuse. You know, if everything is healing correctly and the workouts are going good, rehab starts are going good, I would really hope that we can get this guy to come back and most importantly, stay back. Because when he does come back, you're in July, you're in, right in the pennant race, you're on the trade deadline season. So you don't want to see DeGrom get hurt and the trade deadline's over. And it's like, oh man, we really should have added another pitcher. It's like, no, they have just got to find a way to make sure this guy stays healthy. I don't care when he comes back. I just want him to stay back because I can't take it again where we're so excited that he's back and then he's gone again. And then he comes back and he's gone. I just don't want to see that scenario again.
Yeah, and I don't know who tweeted this out. I think it was me. I don't think it was Phil, but if I hear the Mets say we're gonna get Max and Jake back and we're not adding a pitcher, I'm gonna punch that wall. You add even getting those two guys back in the exact situation that Frank says. Jake comes back, Jake's injured again, and then boom, after the deadline, nothing happens. Frank.
Do you remember last year, the day of the deadline? They said DeGrom was like, the injury was even worse, and the deadline was already over. And I mean, they had Trevor Williams, but at the time, Trevor Williams wasn't seen as like, okay, this guy's going to be in the starting rotation. He's going to fill in for DeGrom. So you just never know what's going to happen. I think the Mets have got to be prepared for all scenarios, and I'll touch on that later on when we get to studs and duds. But I think that they can't bank on that. It's like we said, we knew going in there's injury concerns with this rotation. Max Scherzer is 37, and even if Max is going to come back, I'm not worried about that. But you never know if something else could flail up with him at any point. So I just want to see the Mets be so prepared for any scenario because, as I've said before, they've invested too much. They're too far in to not go all the way. When you're a win-now team, you got a plethora of options. I mean, you want to be the Dodgers. You ever see a guy like Thomas Apucky making a start for the Dodgers? I mean, they're
starting Andrew Heaney.
Absolutely. That guy Kershaw,
they've had
arms
they hide it pretty well, but they've had some guys that are, I mean, again, every team does this because it can happen. Boom, next day Megill's out, and the next day you lose Scherzer. You can have those. Everybody has those. But the Dodgers are more well.
You need to be like 10 pitchers deep to prevent anything like that happening. You always got to have somebody capable that can make the major league start. And just keep it competitive. I mean, don't give up 9 runs in an inning or third. I mean, just at least make it close. That's all you're asking for when you got a guy from the minor leagues pitching.
And, if I could add one thing.
Yeah. Go.
I was going to say, one thing. I guess, kind of talking about DeGrom, when his return is. And I think before the All-Star break would be ideal. Because last year, how we approached the trade deadline, the Mets in their mindset didn't know what was going on with DeGrom. They still thought that they were going to have him back. And that completely screwed up last year. I mean, talk about the draft. That was also a screw up. But not knowing with what was going to happen with DeGrom even screwed us up more. I mean, just getting Trevor Williams to cover DeGrom's spot? Are you kidding? I mean, they didn't know. But that's going to be the thing. And that's why I think it's going to be huge. If DeGrom can come back before. Because I believe the trade deadline is
it's in August now.
July. Yeah, I know it's a different day now. It's not the usual July 31st or whatever it was. So I think getting DeGrom back before that, and you're going to want a couple starts out of him to see actually what we're getting out of him. So that's why I think it's going to be huge because then we could address what guys should we go after to replace DeGrom's spot. Because, if this team really wants to compete, and I agree with what Frank said, I've heard so many times about the Mets wanting to be the East Coast Dodgers or whatever. I get it. Injuries is something, but I've never seen any team around the league have this many injuries. I never have. I mean, yeah, the Yankees stand. Dude's a 500-pound rock. But I've never seen this many teams have to deal with this many injuries. I've said it in the past. Is it Hefner's fault? Is it the medical staff? Whose fault is it? I get it. Scherzer, Degrom, a lot of your rotation is technically much older. But I've never seen so many injuries with such a team. It's crazy. So, I mean, I don't know who. Yeah.
Okay, we all know that answer. The Mets City Field's built on an ancient burial ground. We pissed off a bunch of, ghosts, and now that's our payback that everybody gets injured. Moving on from potentially a $200 million pitcher guaranteed, because, he's going to top Max's AAV, to a future how he's playing $200 million, man. Is this one going to load? No. My bad. We'll get to him in a second. We'll go to Frank's boy, Eduardo Escobar, who struggled, but has heated up in San Francisco. The benefit. He's had some good games in San Francisco, but there's also been a weird scrub ground ball merchant, Luis Georme, who's been red hot, hitting a lot of ground balls, but those aren't sustainable. I'm going to rephrase this question. Who should play more? Luis Georme or Eduardo Escobar? I'll start with the indifference. I'll start with Hayden. Who should start? If you had to pick third base, who's starting more? And Eduardo Escobar's defense, which was great. Frank made a point about it, which was true. Everything when I was hit his way, he's made the play. I don't know what the hell happened the last week and a half. He's turned into J.D. Davis like that. So they keep that in mind. And Georme made a nice play, but he's not, Brooks Robinson over there. Who should play more?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I labeled him as defensive Georme, but he's actually hitting the ball for once. I mean, yeah, he's not hitting any power, but still, I'll take it. He's hitting the ball. He's getting on base. I mean, if you would ask me a week ago, I'm saying Luis Georme in a heartbeat. But Escobar's starting to heat up. Listen, I will say a lot of his defensive mishaps were like balls that were like on the foul line and were like Nolan Arenado, Matt Chapman type of plays that he just completely butchered. There weren't really that many like typical casual plays that he really screwed up. A lot of them were where he kind of had to go out of his way, where he had to charge inwards or to the foul line. But as of right now, I'm going to say still Eduardo Escobar, hoping that what he did in San Francisco is going to continue into this Philadelphia Phillies series in New York. Before the season, Escobar really was supposed to be, really a good hitter, power hitter. I know it was rumored to, could be a guy who could hit 30, 35 home runs, and we haven't really been seeing much power from him. In the past couple weeks, he was lost at the plate incredibly. I mean, swinging at every pitch. I feel every count the dude had was 0-2, and he was just swinging at all these crazy pitches and just, unlucky hits. But, as of right now, I mean, I'm going to take Escobar as a guy who is going to continue to get better. Hoping what he did in San Francisco, like I said, again, I'm going to echo it, can continue into the Phillies series. And then with Georme, I mean, who knows? Maybe he could. I wouldn't be against giving Georme some more playing time at third base. He could be, a type of utility guy. Maybe if Jeff gets the outfield, he could play second. Maybe he could play third. Maybe he could even play shortstop if Lindor needs a day off or whatever. So something like that could happen. As of right now, I'm going to say Eduardo Escobar, and I hope I don't look back at this in a week from now and shake my head.
I'm going to go first before the team captains of each respective club go. And it has to be Escobar because he has the power potential, and this team has no power at all. There's no power in this lineup. Kind of like something I was yelling about in this whole entire offseason. You got a bunch of singles and doubles hitter, which are fun. And Keith Hernandez, Keith loves them. God forbid hearing Keith in the commentary every night. He loves it. But
that's
the
so
power
interesting.
Upside
Andrew.
of Escobar. What?
That is a very interesting point.
Yeah, very interesting. Not like two people yelled it the whole offseason. Besides the point. The power upside of Escobar, I still give him the edge. Obviously, I know what stat this person next to me is going to say. I'll let him go do it. But Escobar can hit the home run. Problem is they haven't come. And like Hayden said, he's had these stretches where for every AB, 0-2, on 2 wild-ass swings, 2 sliders in the dirt, and he's 0-2 every AB. He did look good in the San Francisco series, which, again, hopefully he can jumpstart and get hot. Because, again, if I got to echo Keith Hernandez, once he gets hot, and he is a very streaky hitter. Like, that is factual, just like our former right fielder. If he can get hot and actually start hitting with some power, which we started to see hit the triple, I think against the Mariners in that rally, that didn't happen. He's hit some triples, he's hit some doubles. We haven't seen the homer. The last homer was against the Phillies on the last homestand. So if he the power potential with Escobar should stay in the lineup, because again, besides Pete Alonso, there's no power at all that you can consistently think, okay, he comes up, there's one swing can make it a 1-run game or can give you an RBI in one swing. So as hot as Georme is, you kind of have to ride the hot hand. So if that is, but the problem is with the DH, which you've put Jeff at second, Jeff in left, and then you're going to put at second, put Canna at the DH, but Buck doesn't want to do that. Buck is like, let's just not play Canna every day, which he's been one of the best hitters on the team, but no, he can't play every day because we have to give Dom and JD ABs, but we can't put the best overall lineup for right now together. So I'm going to go Escobar. I'm going to let the Georme simp go first. Why should Luis Georme play more than Eduardo Escobar?
Why would you think I'd defend?
Carolina just scored again.
Why do you think I would defend Luis Georme? That makes no sense. Anyways, a wise man once told me that RBIs make the man. Where the fuck are they?
You know who leads baseball in RBIs?
Who?
Pete Alonso.
Yeah, or Tub.
You know who else is
No,
right? You know who?
wait
a second. You know who else is
guy?
in the top of the leaderboard in RBIs?
Where are they?
Francisco Lindor. He's got no shot. There's no RBIs to drive in. Alonso and Lindor have all of them.
Percentage.
Oh, Jeff McNeil will drive them because Jeff McNeil's going to be a power hitter.
There's nobody on.
This team leads the league in on-base percentage. You're telling me this guy doesn't have any chances?
No,
you got to be kidding
me. They took all the RBIs already. There's none left.
Oh, right. This is why I knew he was going to go there.
So I knew he was going to go.
This is why I hate
Andrew. Am I wrong?
You know what?
Am I wrong?
Because when they're not driving in runs,
I'll go. I'll say once. Let the Georme simp, and I'll. There you go. Go.
Listen,
you simp. Go.
This guy.
How many RBIs has Georme got?
I'm not saying Georme should play right now. Let me get to that.
All right. There we go.
That is like, this is exactly why I hate RBI merchants. Okay. Because when they're not driving in runs, they're absolutely useless. They do nothing. Not to mention on a team that has excelled in high leverage this year, he has been the second worst in that category. Let me tell you who he's been outplayed by in these situations. Tomas Nido. Dominic Smith, Travis Jankowski, JD Davis, Patrick Mazeika. Yes, the entire bench has been playing better than this guy in high leverage situations. Should Georme play over him? I mean, he's red hot. You might as well. But, like, can this dude step up and stop, like, sucking? Like, he's pissing me off. We put this guy in the middle of this damn lineup. The team leads the league in on-base percentage, and this guy can't drive in any runs. I was told this guy's an RBI machine. This guy's amazing. Wow, there's no sustainability in that. Who would have thought? God, get your shit together, man. I miss Javi. And the Rangers need to step up, too.
Yes! Baez has been playing so much better.
Who cares? Who cares?
You're talking about how you miss Javi. Obviously, you do. You brought it up.
He's playing how Lindor played last year.
He's playing hard. He's playing even worse. He's even
It's the type of player that he is that they need in this lineup. Who the hell, like,
to do nothing? The hot guys is
Escobar
literally
is a
doing nothing. Literally nothing but striking out.
Okay.
How's that helping
when does
the
he
team?
not strike out?
But he's not even getting hits. He's not even getting hits.
He only has like 4.
He doesn't even get on base. He doesn't walk. He literally does nothing.
Hey, is the rest of the Tigers hitting either?
No.
I mean, you can
They're
still
the
carry
worst
a
offensive team in all of
somebody's got to
baseball.
score the runs. Miguel Cabrera's out
He
playing.
wasn't-
Miguel Cabrera's like double his age.
Javi really wasn't hitting that well before he was traded to the Mets either.
Well, then,
So
I mean, they should have kept you Quattlebaum.
and got better. That's the other thing.
put
The Mets get somebody,
the
and they
point
actually
is
get
they
better
shouldn't
wearing their
have-
jersey.
They shouldn't have took Javi's ability to play in New York for granted, and they did.
I mean, I said that a million times, but
this guy doesn't do anything.
okay.
He's a crappy defender. He doesn't do anything. He's just mid. I don't know what to tell you.
And there was a
Frank,
plethora
Frank.
of amazing third base options on the market. So, I mean, really it was a tough decision. It really was.
Well,
and you forget the guy's just in here to be a placeholder.
What about Jesus Jeff McNeil? How about him? Why can't we put him at third base? What about him?
He's not a good
got a
third
new-
baseman. He's not a good third baseman.
He's a new,
You remember last time this guy played
Neither
third
is
base?
Eduardo Escobar, so it's basically just an eye for an eye.
I mean, at least Escobar doesn't bounce the ball to first like Mcneil was.
This guy stinks.
Well, I mean,
He's
he's
the
hit
offense.
300.
Not that good.
So,
Like, you're
all right,
trying to
so let me get
convince
this
me that
straight,
he's good.
Andrew.
He's
Let's
not.
get this straight, Andrew. Let's get this straight. When the Mets made the big comeback against Philadelphia and they made the big comeback against San Francisco, it was Travis Jankowski and Tomas Nido getting all the hits, or was that Eduardo Escobar?
Travis Jankowski raced home. He was pretty good on the base
As a
pass.
pinch runner, so he's better in high leverage because he's a good pinch runner.
Okay, that was big. Like you said, his speed is big on this team.
But you're telling me these guys are better in high leverage than Escobar. Show me the examples of Travis Jankowski come through with a big hit in a big spot. Let me hear it.
big walks.
He's gotten
That's what
on
he
base
does,
in big
walks.
spots.
He gets on
really?
base.
He gets on base
Yeah.
in big spots.
Do you know
Yeah.
the last?
He don't get the big
do you know
news.
the last
He-
time
the
Travis
wall-
Jankowski got a hit?
Listen, I understand you're Mr. Moments and you don't like looking at numbers at all, but listen,
Numbers.
I understand.
Look, okay.
I understand. Listen,
Do me-
I
do me a
understand.
favor.
We have.
Do me a favor.
I
Listen.
understand
listen,
you're Mr.
listen,
Moments and you need a
listen,
moment card in
listen,
MLB The
listen.
Show.
Over the last month, tell me how many hits Travis Jankowski has. Let me hear it.
Okay, that means nothing to do for this actual argument.
But
He
you're
hasn't
telling
had
me
as many.
Jankowski's
He hasn't
better.
had as many
You
plate
told me
appearances as
Jankowski's
Eduardo
better.
Escobar.
You told me Jankowski's better.
He's been better in high leverage situations. Granted, he does have a smaller sample size in that,
Why is that? Because
but he's
not
still
good.
outplaying him.
You're not going to play him because he's not good. That's why.
He's still outplaying him in those situations, though.
Then why don't they use him? If he's so much better, why don't they use him in the highlight? Why doesn't, if they're in a big
He's
spot?
the fourth outfielder.
Yeah, but since he's better than Escobar, wouldn't it make sense to pinch hit for him?
I never said he was better than Escobar.
He just stays outplaying him.
I said he's outplaying him in high leverage situations.
So in a
which
high
this guy
leverage
is supposed
situation,
to be
shouldn't you
good at.
pinch hit Jankowski?
I don't care. I
they
pitch hit him for Nito.
They don't care. All right. Well, anyways, regardless,
What my
The
point
answer-
is that this guy is supposed to come through, and he doesn't.
the season's
He's
over.
in the middle of the lineup, and he doesn't come through. He's
How come-
always been a terrible high leverage hitter.
Okay, and the season's over.
Absolutely. It's already ended 17 times.
Okay. Anyway, let's let the year play out and see where he's at. But
He's done this for his entire career. He hasn't been good in high leverage at all. He doesn't come through.
All right. Enough.
Jesus Christ!
and
God,
so
he's
who
not
am I
getting
supposed to pick up again instead of him? He still doesn't quite answer that, but that's fine. Anyway,
Should have just gave
The answer is the Mets should use both. And the reason why is because this year they have the DH at their disposal. So since Eduardo Escobar has been struggling in the field, particularly with his throwing, I think that they should have Georme start at third base and have Escobar DH, because I'd much rather have Eduardo Escobar swinging the bat than Dominic Smith. I think Dominic Smith should not start. He shouldn't be on this team anymore, especially because he wants to be traded anyway, since Dom Smith is an everyday player and he deserves to play every day. Meanwhile, his performance hasn't proved that, but since he wants to play every day, get rid of him. Dom could play every day somewhere else, and then you could have Escobar be your DH. You could have Georme play third. I think what happened with Eduardo Escobar was that he had one bad throw, and then all of a sudden it just became bad throw after bad throw. Got into his head, and then, I mean, it happens. You see players get into fielding slumps. I mean, we've seen plenty of players have that happen. Got a little better lately. He hasn't, I mean, this series he didn't throw one into the freaking dugout, so that's improvement. But I think for now they could use both. Eduardo Escobar was red hot when this season started. He was good in April, but, nobody talked about that. He got into a slump. This last week, he's been good offensively. Look at the numbers. And even despite all that, he's still around average in WRC plus, even despite all of his struggles. So I think that for right now, you could use both. I think Georme does definitely deserve to play more. Georme, similar to JD Davis, is one of those guys that the more he plays, the better he plays. You saw that in 2020. I mean, Georme going into September was batting .410 because he was playing every day and he was hitting well. Then Todd Frazier came along, took his playing time, and then Georme was never the same. It just went downhill from there. So I don't want to see them waste a guy swinging a hot bat, but they have. He didn't start at all.
Get COVID? Did Georme get COVID or did Tomas Nido in 2020?
I know Nido did. I know
Nido.
Nido.
Was it Nido?
It was Tomas Nido.
Yeah.
He got it in Miami.
He just disappeared after that, right? He just disappeared, and then they got Chirinos, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, pretty much. So, and then, but that's I just think it goes for most players that they need a rhythm if they're going to play well. So you just can't convince me that Dom Smith should get any starts over Luis Georme. Especially if Dom is going to be complaining and wants to play every day. So to me, I think you should just start both. Have Georme play third because he's a great glove. We've known that all along. You could have Escobar or DH, like you said. Hopefully, the power shows up at some point. He had barrels in back-to-back games in the San Francisco series. He had 4 hits in the game against San Francisco. So you hope they could get on one of those hot streaks because he is a streaky hitter. I mean a lot of hitters go through slumps and streaks and hot streaks, cold streaks. It happens to everybody. So I'm hoping he picks it up.
Brett Beatty's here in a year. Moving on to somebody everyone likes.
He's a placeholder contract because the Mets had 3 of their top prospects are going to be, in all likelihood, they're going to be third basemen. So you weren't going to give a guy 7 years or 6 years when you knew that maybe as soon as this year, you were going to have a young player fill in. So he was just a placeholder contract in the first place.
Then why is it taking so goddamn long?
They could call Vientos up now over Don Smith. I mean, I don't see why not.
Yeah, prevent. God. Moving on. All right. Now moving on to a player that nobody hates, and I doubt we'll get into a full-on argument, but maybe the money-wise, we're talking money probably. Brandon Nimmo, the greatest center fielder of all time, literally the better than Jesus. He's a free agent after this season, and obviously he has changed agencies to Scott Boras. Oh, well, not Brody, but if the news that I'd have, that I know, God, I wish it was done before then, but Nimmo is being Nimmo and being one of the best center fielders in the game. The question is, you look at some of the outfield comps, you look at a guy like George Springer making 150. Technically now Chris Bryant's an outfielder, and he got 7 years at $170 million or whatever he got from the Rockies. Were just complete overpay. How he has played, and you put the GM hat on. Is Brandon Nimmo worth $200 million? I'll start with Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, Nimmo's been having a phenomenal season. I mean, it's no secret. The dude's always been a really good ball player. It's just, as we know, the biggest thing keeping him on the field. And he's been healthy so far, knock on wood. He really on the field does do great stuff. We know that he's kind of changing his whatever you want to call it at the plate. Swinging a little bit more, which isn't bad. I will say that he has been striking out a little bit too much than I like, but hey, he's not striking out like 20 times a week, so that's good. But overall, I mean, he is one of the best leadoff players in the game, no secret. I mean, the stats he's put up so far have been phenomenal. I think he absolutely is worthy of an extension. I mean, we're talking 175, 200 borderline. Really doesn't make a difference, I guess. When you're talking millions, I guess that'd be change. I obviously would have no problem 175 to that 200, 215 margin, depending on how many years. If you're talking 7, 8 years, how old is Nimmo? Nimmo is 29. So, yeah, he'll be 30 by next year, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, if you're talking like 7 or so years, obviously, I think the biggest thing with Nimmo obviously going into his 30s, when you're talking, 36, 37 years old, but we'll face that thing. We'll face that when it comes. Obviously, I met Nimmo this past spring training, and I told him to make the All-Star team. And I'm guessing he said, "Say less, Hayden, I will." And he's been putting up phenomenal numbers. So very elite. Who knows? I may like him more than Pete Alonso coming down the line. So that really may be something very serious. So absolutely.
Frank, That's a lot of money. Like that's a lot of food. You giving him $200 million?
I guess I always say I'm more concerned about years than money. I mean, I think I always say I'd rather give a guy more money and less years. So I mean, if 200 million, I'm guessing you're looking at if Brian got 175, are we looking at 8 for 200? Is that the kind of contract we're looking at for Nimmo? I think that
70.
they have really got to try to keep this guy. I think Brandon Nimmo is really, really important to what the Mets want to do if they want to be successful. One of the main reasons why Francisco Lindor and P. Alonso have had good seasons is because they have Brandon Nimmo batting in front of him. Getting on base at an elite level that he has done his entire career, as far as top 5 on base percentage year after year after year. He's putting up good numbers. What I love about Brandon Nimmo this year in particular is that he has done a really good job of going the other way, just kind of punching the ball. Because you could see him swinging this way, man, conserve effort to go the opposite field, even because sometimes they try to put the shift on him. So you like to see that. He hasn't struck as much fastball as he was earlier in his career, so that's good that you see him making improvements, only getting better and better. The biggest concern with Nimmo is always his health. We all got a little worried. We had that swing, and his ankle got a little twisted a little bit. Oh, no, here we go. But so far, so good. He's been healthy, and the main thing is keep him healthy. So I really would love to see the Mets keep him. He's a great guy. He's someone that's very easy to root for. He always hustles, maybe sometimes to a fault. We saw that. I believe it was Cincinnati last year. The Mets were winning like 7-0. And this guy's, or maybe it was the Washington game too, where he's hustling around the base. The Mets are by a big margin. And he gets hurt. So I think, that's always something to keep in mind. But I just think that he's a guy that not many guys, I mean, let's say he's top 5 on base percentage. Not many guys could do what Brandon Nimmo does. It's hard to be like, there's plenty of Nimmos on the free agent market and the trade market. Not really. I mean, Brandon Nimmo is kind of a one-of-a-kind kind of guy. So that's the kind of guys you want to pay $200 million for, guys that are not easily replaceable. You cannot easily get that production, especially when your outfield minor league system, it don't got another Brandon Nimmo on the way. So you got to keep him because you don't know the alternatives.
Yeah, we got Juan Soto's coming. Metsfan.
Wait a minute. We don't have another Brandon Nimmo on the way. Have you seen Desmond Lindsay? All right. So
oh my God, fuck off. Go, Nimmo.
Absolutely. He's absolutely worth $200 million. And I think he's worth more than that, to be honest, since he's stayed healthy this year so far. He's the best hitter on the team. He has been the best hitter on the team since 2018. And Nimmo just gets better every year. And that's what I love about him. Am I scared about the market with Scott Boras by his side? Absolutely. But you can't let players like Brandon Nimmo go, like Frank just said. We need this guy at the top of the lineup for years and years to come. I'd pay the man whatever he wants. He's 29 right now, and I'd love to have him here into his 30s. But the key is just stay healthy. That's it.
Yeah. As the most completely unbiased Brandon Nimmo fan here, and not having any external options if he's on this ball club, you legit, you back the truck up and you say you give him a free check and say, what do you want? Because I'll let everybody has said, you can't replace this guy. Could you bring in a couple of on-base guys? Cool, but you're not going to replace his hustle because nobody out hustles Brandon Nimmo. He's got that grit. He's one of those just gritty ball players. Grit at 100. Just he's grinding out every AB. He don't care. He'll be there for a half hour for an AB if he just has to get on base. But again, heel Nemo, we said, could he make the All-Star team? It's tough, but there's a lot of outfielders out there. But he's put a really good shot, and I make fun of it. But for center fielders in WAR, he's number 2, and the guy that's ahead of him, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. His name's Mike Trout. He's pretty good, and it's almost the same WAR as Mike Trout, a little less. But I'm not saying he's the greatest player of all time, but he's all right. So again, for me, you back him up, not because totally I want to go in the clubhouse in spring training. No issue. I don't want to see him leave so I can have some stuff with the clubhouse. Not at all. But yeah, you pay Brandon Nimmo as much money as you possibly wants, and you have more money than God. So and Steve has said, you keep the homegrown talent. This is one of the 2 guys you got to keep. So moving on. You know, if you look at a calendar and if you know the Mets, the month of June, a lot of stuff happens there. Most of it relying about a player that doesn't. If you've ever looked at a calendar, again, June's bad. But we've gotten rid of the player who absolutely sucks donkey dick. He's gone. This is a different team. But obviously, he still says Mets across the front, and it's going to say May on the calendar. Wait for the load. Let's see. What is your biggest concern and keys to avoid the dreaded June Swoon? And I'll pull up the schedule. We all know what it is because we're all shitting our pants knowing we got to start winning games. But I have it marked. I'm marking every game on this calendar if I can find it right here. So finishing up with the Dodgers, and then obviously Phillies and Washington finish out May. And then Dodgers, Padres, Angels, Brewers. That's just the first 2 weeks. Then you had Miami. Then you throw Houston in there as well. It is a bloodbath, but it's also a challenge. Say, hey, how good is this team? You got to go up against the best to be the best. I'll start with Frank. What are your keys to avoiding an absolute collapse?
Yeah, there's a few I talked about earlier. The pitching, number one, no injuries. And number two, the least amount of blow-up starts possible. Because, you don't want to overtire the bullpen. And then you have to use pitchers that you really shouldn't be or that you would like to have but aren't available because you had to work them so much in the previous day doing mop-up duty. So that's my first key. Injuries and getting consistent pitching, particularly from the rotation. No blow-up outings. The other thing is we can't have a lot of guys going to a slump at the same point in time because we've seen that in June before where all of a sudden the entire team goes in a slump and nobody's producing. So they can't have that again where they all have just their – because like we said earlier, we know everybody has slumps, but you can't have the whole team go into a slump. And you're going to be facing some tough pitching, so it's going to be hard. But what I like about this team is that they have guys that even – power is going to come and go. But you have guys that get on base. We talked about Nimmo already. McCann is going to get on base. And the infield hits, they may seem like they're not good XBA. They may seem like they're not hard hit. But speed and hustle will bail you out more than you think. And I think the fact that this team always hustles, they're making a concerted effort to put the ball in play. Guys like Jeff Mcneil, he may get his bloop double, over the third baseman's head. Stuff like that is going to help this team be consistent and just avoid any huge slumps. They always kind of get on base. And then you just not having those injuries, because that was the other thing we saw in June. I'm pretty sure it was the Tampa game where you saw Megill and Conforto both pull those hamstrings in June. And then you just had some guys in the lineup you really don't want to have. So it's going to be a combination of everything to avoid it, because June is historically so bad for the Mets that a lot of things go wrong at once. So you just got to try to limit as many of those elements as you can.
Yeah. Hayden, keys to avoiding an absolute collapse.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule looks pretty terrifying. I mean, remember last August when it was like Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, Giants? Well, I mean, hopefully that won't be as bad as this. You hope now you play the Phillies and Nationals. Until then, you can try and get something serious against those two teams. Whether it's taking 2 or 3 against Philly and sweeping that Nationals series, that would be huge going into June. I don't think that'll happen, though. You play 4 games in LA. The Mets actually, like Alonso, Mcneil, they actually have pretty good numbers in Dodger Stadium. I mean, Alonso was some good home run numbers there. So I'm not like petrified of the Mets going there. However, it's going to be an intriguing series. Keep in mind the Phillies, I mean, took 3 out of 4 2 weeks ago against the Dodgers. Yeah, their offense was hot, but still, if this offense gets hot, that could happen. So, I mean, that Dodgers series, Padres, Angels, Brewers, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I think it's not going to be the make or break. Keep in mind, even if you're playing above 500 ball, listen, I'll take that. If as long as the Mets, could win, 10 of 20 against those good teams, I'll be happy. Overall, the biggest key is to have the bats hot as they are. No slumps, like you guys kind of said. Keep Alonso consistent. Keep Mcneil consistent, who has been. Keep Nimmo consistent, who has been. Keep Francisco Lindor, Jason Bay, whatever you want to call him. Keep him consistent. He can't be having these, 0 for 10 and then 8 for 10 streaks. No, you got to be consistent. Escobar, the bats need to stay alive and the pitching needs to go out and execute overall. I mean, yeah, if the bats are alive and putting up, 8-9 runs a game, I'm not really as worried about the pitching. no streaky hitting. That's going to be the biggest thing. And obviously playing the bullpen smart is going to be huge because, you look at these lineups, the Dodgers, the Angels, these are pretty big lineups. The Padres, I don't know when they're getting Tatis back, but these are pretty big lineups that can really screw up your starting pitching and even bullpen. So play the bullpen right and keep the offense hot. Keep it on a roll.
I mean, Tatis brings no value anyway. Tub.
That's racist. I have one rule. Don't get swept. That's it. That's all you got to do is play 500 ball. And every team they face, the Mets, every team that they're facing in this stretch, I do think the Mets match up fairly well against. This team has proven to me that they don't surrender. It's full gas 24/7. And that goes out to a lot of the leadership to Buck Showalter. Out of all the managers I've seen between Callaway and Rojas and Collins and, there's no one I really try and dodge of June Swoon under than Buck Showalter. And he said that this isn't a sky is falling team. And I think so far that they've pretty much made that clear. That's something that they do. They really fight to the end and just survive until we're fully healthy. That's it. Like, that's all I have to say. Make those adjustments when they need to be needed. Don't try to push anything. Just try and get the outs from the pitching. Don't need innings, just need outs. Just take a page from the book from the Rays for just a few weeks, and then you're home free and you get your rotation healthy again. One game at a time. That's all I got to say. And I'm not expecting them to just full on collapse because I think I'm very confident that this team can actually hold it off. And no, we do not stream during games for those asking. But other than that, yeah, just don't suck.
That's a pretty good key. Just don't suck. Yeah, for me, my thing is you right now only have 2, and if you like results, 3 people you trust your rotation right now. My keys: win those games. You can sacrifice a Peterson start, sacrifice the TBD 5th, Sapaki, Budo, Zach Greinke, whoever the hell's pitching in Game 5. You sacrifice those 2 games. When Bassett's on the mound and when we get Tyler Megill, those games you need to win because those are the guys you trust. Carrasco, you win 50% of those. Okay, he's gonna have a bad start, but he's also shown that he has a bad start. Then the next 2 starts are usually 2 to 3 really good starts. Taiwan Walker, fluke your way through another month, please. Just fluke your way through another month. All we need is another month, and then we can send you into the incinerator so we never have to see you again. Pitch well and opt out after this season. Just go away, please. One more month. That's all I ask. And then, again, with Peterson, Williams, Sapaki, Budo, Colin Holder, whoever the hell is pitching in that 5th start, you can sacrifice them, but, hey, if you can steal a game, maybe you get a good matchup. Maybe that day, Peterson throws a no-hitter and you steal it, or Budo comes up and is the next version of prime Steven Strasburg. Who knows? But those are the games when Bassett's on the mound, when Megill's on the mound, and Carrasco on the mound. Those are the games you got to win. And then the back half of your rotation, you give and take. You hope you can win them, but, if you lose them, it's not at the end of the world. The biggest thing is you have to win the games. The Bassett Hound and Megill, Sylor is on the mound, and Carrasco, majority of the time, you got to win those starts. So, any other key points you want to bring in before we a report of a Rhino? Any others? No?
Again,
Okay.
Don't suck.
So
that's it.
Don't suck. That should be on a wall. I might add that to the wall. Don't suck. Just get a nice little poster. Put Taiwan Walker's picture next to it. Don't suck. Let's do a little Rhino report. And obviously, especially after what has happened in the first game, the first 5 innings of Binghamton, these were statistics based through this morning. A certain player, which is first, you're going to tack on a few numbers. Your Rhino report, obviously, always. And they'll start with this man who obviously has been torching hot in April. Was really thinking, hey, McChicken's gone. He's the guy. Nope. Then May hit, and the first 2 weeks of May, he's been ice cold. The last 2 weeks, it's been some games he's red hot. Some games he's 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Today, he's one of those days. He's had 3 ABs. He's got 2 homers and a double. That's just Francisco Alvarez. You take it. Obviously, now the home runs over 6, RBIs over at minimum 21. I don't know if they were 2-run homers, 3-run homers. I didn't see. I just saw Michael Mayer posting. Again, the 100 WRC plus slugging. Obviously, it's Alvarez. Bat first. He's going to be peaks and valleys. He's not ready yet. So stop saying get him up here. Maybe in August, if he continues to get back on that hot streak, which maybe he seems to be breaking back out to being Francisco Alvarez, and, they don't make a trade for a catcher, maybe you make him your DH if you don't want to make a trade for your DH, but that's an argument. We'll get to that throughout the summer. Brett Beatty. Again, Brett hasn't been great because he's kind of in the him and Eduardo Escobar are the same. Alvarez is clearing up Jake Mangum, and he's hitting between Mauricio, he's getting on base, and then Mauricio's driving him in. So you look at the RBIs and the power numbers. He really hasn't for power yet. He only has 3 homers on the year. He just hit his 3rd one. I think it was on Sunday. He just hit his 3rd homer. But he's in that kind of spot where he's behind Alvarez, and Alvarez is cleaning him up, and then he's getting on, and Mauricio's driving him in. Moving on to Mauricio, the big RBI numbers, 24 RBIs. Again, Mauricio, he's not going to get on base under 300. You don't love that. Slugging close to 500, you kind of like that. WR plus 110. He hit, I think, 2 doubles and a homer in yesterday's game. So again, switch hitting. He's going to get traded if he's your best trade chip. Please do not trade him for a no defensive outfield bat who doesn't play defense and a reliever. I love Jake Diekman. Don't make that trade. If you want to make that trade, you might be dumber than a bag of dicks. Mark Vientos, the closest guy you're going to see. You look at those numbers, you're thinking, that batting average is bad. And thank you to Michael Mayer. I have something real quick. If my phone ever wants to turn on and help me out, it'd be great. In the last 15 games, he had an atrocious April. Kind of the opposite of Alvarez. He had a really bad April. He homered in the first game, and that was the only thing he did all month. Last 15 games, his OPS is over 1,000. He's just hit another homer yesterday. He's homered, I believe, in 3 straight games. 6 homers, 15 RBIs, a 105 WRC plus. Slugging, get him up. Him and the Polk Dog, get them up, make them the DH. Send JD and Dom to the incinerator. Moving on to the pitching prospects. Like, again, Mets fan is already ruined. Buto. You look at the numbers, again, win-loss records. Who cares? This isn't 1990. ERAs aren't great, but the innings pitched to walk and the strikeout to walk rates are good. The opponent batting average is good. Buto, I think, is going to pitch Friday. I think it's Friday or Saturday he'll be back on the mound. So maybe next time through the Mets rotation, if they desperately need it on, Buto can be possible. They just, didn't they bring up Ziegler out of Binghamton? Or that was the surprise of the week. I think they just called up Ziegler. And he's having pretty good opponent batting average, not getting hit hard. Surprise of the week. I'll give anyone $50 if they can say his last name. I don't even know. I'm calling him Hijack. I don't know how the hell to say his last name. The Submariner. He's pitching. Oh, he's pitching. Is he pitching today? Oh, all right. Budo's pitching. I guess Budo is pitching today. But again, Josh Hijack, Submariner, has been absolutely tearing up in Brooklyn. Just got called to St. Lucie now, and that's his season statistics. Has been the surprise of the week. I didn't throw Alex Ramirez on here. Didn't throw the Plum Dog or Nick or Cody, who's now got back and it's getting hot. How do you say it? Hajika?
Heka.
Oh,
I'm Eastern European.
Okay. I'm still gonna call him Hijack. I think that's way cooler. But yeah, Hayden gets $50. Send him a Subway gift card. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Next update, we'll have obviously Alex Ramirez, who was red hot and still is red hot. I'll throw the Plum Dog on there. This was kind of last minute, but obviously had to go to the surprise of the week. And any questions elsewise? Jalen Palmer, who Elias asked the last time, who was ice cold again, is now getting red hot as well down in Brooklyn. He started to finally warm up. Anything out? Any questions?
Here's my question.
Not, I think we've got a few.
Here's my question. I think your camera's very delayed, so you're missing us by like 10 seconds. So here's my question. All right. Does Alvarez hit the ball on the ground a lot?
No.
Get him up.
He doesn't
here.
hit the ball.
And the Rangers just scored again. Let's go. Take the lead.
So, we got a few questions from the chat, and if you guys have more questions, leave them in the comment. We'll take about 15 minutes before we go to our final segment. Give you guys a little bit of time to answer some questions. Speaking of minor leaguers and talking about Brandon Nimmo, do you think the Mets could replace Nimmo with the MAGA man himself, Jake Magnum? Frank.
I like Jake, but I hope that's not the case. I mean, I feel like we've said this before, but when you're a team that's in win now mode, you don't trust minor league prospects, no matter how. And Jake's not even one of those guys that was ranked like a Kalanick, like a J-Rod, where it's like, this guy is going to be the next deal. We hope he's going to be a solid MLB player. I think you have a case that he's probably not too far from making this team when you look at just our fourth outfield situation, especially offensively. But I don't think that's the case. I feel like the Mets are going to try to do their due diligence and keep Brandon Nimmo as long as he stays healthy and he plays pretty close to the level he's playing at right now.
Who said J-Rod was going to be good? I don't know. Hayden?
Everybody.
No,
MLB The Show said it. I listen, if they make a Jake Mangum Future Stars card, then, I'll believe it. But until then, not that guy.
Next team affinity is going to be Future Stars. I need my goddamn Brett Beatty Future Stars MLB The Show. I will fight you if I don't get it. Hayden?
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he make his AAA debut last week?
He got a single. His first, yesterday. Yeah, like his first single RBI. It was a single.
Yeah. I mean, I will say Mangum's kind of like a pretty underrated, prospect, I will say, for the least. I mean, Mississippi State, good school. I know I believe he from research, he had a pretty horrible April, but really picked things up in May. He's kind of like that high on base type of guy, really to the extent of Nimmo. Well, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, I love prospects. I find them fascinating, but I'm not investing Mangum in a guy that's already proved himself in Brandon Nimmo. That's the most tricky things about being, a prospect head, is that, you don't know what they're going to be. Right now, I mean, Kalanick, he's been sent down. He was horrible. I mean, every prospect, I mean, the only prospect this year that's actually doing something is Julio Rodriguez. I mean, Bobby Wood Jr. hasn't been doing any much. Torkelson's been horrible. I mean, if you want to count Seiya Suzuki as a prospect, go ahead, even though he played in Japan. But the point is, I don't want them to invest everything. I don't want them to invest Nimmo in Mangum. So as of right now, I would say no.
Mets fan, we've seen this man play a lot of games. The MAGA man. What do you think?
Well, they just called off the goal. So I'm just going to think about sadness. I think I'm just going to think about sadness and say that Brandon Nimmo will leave the Mets. Everyone will get traded, and we will go into a Great Depression. I don't think they're going to try that. I think he's going to probably just be the fourth outfielder. If they want to call up a new fourth outfielder, because the juice with Jankowski's kind of running out. It's so hard to say because you just don't know how you can trust the Mets with free agents because they've never really done a good job with it. But I really hope not. I'm really hoping that's not a thing. I probably would prefer if they keep Nick Plummer. He would be that guy, but he's not the best guy in center field.
No.
Neither was Nimmo, but hey, maybe we can do something there. But all I can say is bring Nimmo back. That's all I gotta say. Just bring Nimmo back at this point.
And even if Nimmo leaves, Brian Reynolds will be here next year. It's okay. So we don't got to worry about it. Brian Reynolds will be here.
Frank had something to say, even though you're massively delayed.
Hey, just like the Rangers power play. Frank?
Yeah, I was going to say, Carson brought up the point about the free agency, and I still find it pretty interesting that other than Steven Negosik, the Mets did not bring back a single expiring free agent. And we know, well documented, Mets spent over 100 days in first place last season. And then we talked earlier, they had that June Swoon. I wonder if by worst case scenario this team did fall apart again and they had a really bad stretch of games and they don't make the playoffs, or even if they do, they don't make the wild card game, how would they approach free agency? Would they go the same route of like, we're getting a bunch of new guys, we're not bringing back any of our players? And then we talked about earlier with Nimmo, the whole Scott Boras element is very unknown. So, so he might get some team to just give a crazy offer. And the Mets have decided, are we going to go that next level? There's just going to be a lot of things at stake. There's a topic that I believe was maybe scrapped, but we're going to talk about Edwin Diaz and, his contract situation. So we know the Mets have a lot of expiring guys these next couple of years, and they're going to have to be really selective. It's like, okay, who do we keep? Who do we not keep? What do we do with Pete Alonso? I mean, I personally would like to keep Jeff McNeil. Not everybody would, but I think there's some questions that they're going to have to figure out about who's going to stay, who's not going to stay. And then if Nimmo's price does get pretty crazy, it's like, I wonder if we know Sandy has his line in the sand with a player. I wonder if Billy Epler is the same way. I don't know about the same way, but I wonder if Billy Epler also has a line where it's like, okay, we love Nimmo, we want to keep him, but if it gets to this number, we might have to back out and explore other options.
It also comes down to the whole point where he may be a Sandy guy, Nimmo, but he's an Epler type of guy. So maybe Epler's like, okay, this guy, he's my type of guy. He's my on-base god. We'll see how they look at it. Again, I don't. It's hard to not think of Brandon Nimmo at the top of the lineup, even though he's been injured and we've had to play without him a lot. I just don't see a scenario where you're like, okay, we can just replace Nimmo with other guys. Even though they brought in guys who can get on base, nobody does it at the level that he does. This is a once in a blue moon type of player that you can put at the top of your lineup. I've compared him to Tony Gwynn before, and he's still Tony Gwynn. All right, he's even better now. And I just don't say, hey, we got Jake Mangum. No, that can't happen. So sign Nimmo. That's it.
I mean, and if he resign, if he doesn't resign, we just put Gold Glove Marte in center field and we sign a right field. We sign Aaron Judge. Boom, problem solved. All right, last question before we get into studs and duds, because we got one more to talk about, and it's involving another trade, because I think we're starting to get to that season where trades are going to be more of a topic.
Well, I would just like to say that I was told that quid pro quo and will never let any New York Met go. That's what I was told by a lot of people on Mets Twitter. So I'm just gonna point that out there.
I don't. If he holds them hostage, why not?
I mean, I was told that Colin would never let
him hostage before he signs with us. Why not?
I'll give him a flag.
I was told that money wasn't a concern for Mr. Cohen.
Wilson Contreras, obviously.
There's 29 other teams that would willing to negotiate with Nimmo, so there's not.
I was told Steve Cohen the best owner. That's what I was told.
No, the A's are cutting all their payroll just to give it to Brad.
I think the A's. I mean, yeah, let's get the A's front office. I respect them. Big respect.
So,
okay.
Wilson Contreras, obviously, a guy rental would be a rental at the deadline. Well, you would trade an all-star catcher to get another all-star catcher. We don't know what the price is. The Cubs have given up everything, but yet they went and signed Marcus Stroman, Seiya Suzuki. They still have Schwindel and Wisdom out there. They don't know what the hell they're doing in Chicago. We thought the division would be weak. The Brewers and Cardinals, who were always better than them, are still always better than those two teams. We don't know what the Cubs are doing. The Mets are, again, I don't need to see not Patrick Mazeek. I don't never need to see Tomas Nido swing a bat again in my life. I would just send him to the incinerator. Again, the incinerator is getting pretty fat with all these guys we got to send there. What are the chances? And if you were the Ep dog, would you go after Wilson Contreras? I'll start with Frank, because I know what at least one opinion is going to be.
Yeah, normally I would say that this is something the Mets wouldn't do. But I think after seeing what happened with Robinson Cano earlier this season, I think that now it's possible. Because, I mean, don't forget that James McCann, he still has 2 years remaining on his deal, $10 million per. Nobody's taking that contract. As much as some may hope, nobody's taking that contract.
All-star, though. He's an all-star.
He was
an
an
all-star,
all-star,
though.
but he hasn't been.
He is an all-star forever.
He hasn't played as good as the Mets would have hoped. I think we all could agree on
Excuse
that.
me? He's been fantastic.
Anyway, but I think that if it gets to the point where you're seeing this team where it's like, okay, the catcher offense is what's holding this team back. It's the difference maker and them really going to that next level. I would imagine Wilson Contreras is available at some point because, Andrew, like you said, I don't see the Cubs really having that good of a year this year. I think they will find themselves probably moving on from Contreras at some point because I think the asking price is going to be pretty high for him because it's very rare that you see a good offensive catcher even available on the trade market. I know his defense hasn't been great, so that's something that the Mets have to consider. It's like, do we want to make that sacrifice and hurt our defense? Do we think that Wilson Contreras' offense is a big enough boost to cancel out the disparity in his defense between him and a Tomas Nido, for example, and beat out some of those other offers that are out there? Because, like I said, it's probably going to cost a lot. And the other thing to keep in mind is that you do have Francisco Alvarez on the horizon. So the asking price is a lot. So are you going to do that if it's not going to be for a guy you're going to keep long term? So I think there's a lot of different elements at stake here. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen because, like I said, I think they want to keep the defense that they got. They have Alvarez on the way. And like we said, I don't want to see this team just give up so much give a top 10 prospect for a guy who's not going to be here in 2 years. I don't think that's smart business. And it would have to be the right guy, like the guy. I don't think Wilson Contreras, he's good, but I don't think he's the guy that you'd be willing, okay, you know what? We're only going to get a year or maybe half a year out of him. We'll give up a top 10 prospect. I don't think he's that much of an impact maker to make that kind of move.
Hayden?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, Frank. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, looking at what happened with Baez yesterday, giving up PCA for a rental, and then pretty much Trevor Williams, who is not even worth PCA. I would really hate to see the Mets clear out more of their farm system for a guy that's going to be a placeholder. No more placeholders. McCann, he's a placeholder. For who? Alvarez. And bringing in Contreras, then you have McCann, Contreras, Nido, probably send Mazika back down. So you have 3 catchers. Would you want to consider McCann an everyday catcher? Okay, then you'd have 2 everyday catchers. What are you doing? You'd have 2 extra catchers on the bench. Are you sending away Nido in this case? I get it. I don't really think the Cubs are really competing right now. So if anything, last year, I thought they were going to send away Contreras before Bryant, Baez, and Rizzo. So I'm surprised that Contreras was still there. If anything, I thought they would have most likely kept any of those 3 guys instead of Contreras, if you guys get what I'm saying. As of right now, I think there's definitely a chance. If I'm Georme, if I'm Billy Epler, I would say no. Just because I don't really want any more placeholder catchers. Wait till Alvarez comes up. You have a year and a half. Unless you keep the dude for another year and a half. He's 30, and we know the thing when catchers turn 30, they value goes down. So Contreras is a good catcher. I'm excited. I'll be in Chicago this summer, so I'll see him in person. I have him on my fantasy league. He had a home run today. I think he's a good catcher, but I don't really have any interest in the Mets going after him. If the Mets don't have Alvarez in their farm, yeah, I would consider it, but no.
Contreras? I think if James McCann was going the other way, yes. I don't know, man. Are we really going to hit the panic button on catcher? Because I think James McCann does have that lockdown. I think he's the guy. He's a franchise player who's an all-star. So if we're going to trade for a catcher, I'd rather not be for just a name that's a big name that's hitting well. I'd rather it be something a little bit lower than that, like a team that's trying to offload them or try to get some, mid-level prospects, beef up their farm. There's no guys that are coming to mind right now because the Rangers are pissing me off. So
Roberto Perez
is a possibility.
Yeah.
He's out for the year.
He's out for the year. He blew out his hamstring.
Clear the
He's blood. He just
fucking
blood his
fuck
hamstring.
already.
He had surgery last week. He's done for the year. Yeah.
Lovely.
So I was about to say,
All right,
that
so never
option's
mind.
gone.
Never mind.
Yeah.
I didn't even
I
see that.
mean, I just don't see that. I just see this as a panic move, to be honest. As much as I don't like what's going on with the catcher position before Alvarez gets here, I see this is going to be a Robinson Chirinos type of trade, and it's going to get you nothing. So I'd be very careful with this. Listen, if we're going to trade a top 10 prospect, I know Thomas Sapucki is a top 10 prospect, or he was, potential and a big draft pick. He's amazing. So, I don't know. It's very hard with catchers. It's a very weird position. So you just never know where the value is going to stop and when it's going to start. So I'm going to say no for now. But if catcher's really in need, let's say, God forbid, Tomas Nido gets hurt, or if Patrick Mazeika gets hurt, I'd like to see them try out Nick Mayer first before they start looking for a catcher at the deadline. So we'll see. But that's it. That's all I got to say. Be careful with this because we already signed a catcher for 4 years and it's looking like shit. So whatever.
It took a lot. There's a lot of hypocrisy I'm hearing in that conversation about that I've heard from other episodes. Here's my deal with it. I'm only trading for Contreras for 2 reasons. One, the asking price. One, they get through June and they look like they go on a run in June. They show that they are one of the best teams in the major leagues. They're kicking ass. And they're like, you know what? It's the one piece. Then do it. 2, the asking price for a guy like JD Martinez or another big bat is so ridiculous, and this isn't, then fine. I am okay with it. 3, if they attach another asset, and the asset that I'm going to say might wrinkle a feather, it's a big contract that can deduct the price and is an extra arm. If they throw Kyle Hendricks on that and it's $30 million due the next 2 years to lower the price, then I'm doing it. Then I'm talking. If it's not any of those 3 options, I get it. The only way they make this trade specifically, the bat market is too pricey, or this team is legit and their only glaring hole, which it isn't, but in this hypothetical, is they kill that stretch in June. They go into July thinking our one weakness, which it is catcher. We can sacrifice, and let's say they call Vientos and for someone to maybe to fill that DH role. And the only glaring hole offensively is catcher, and you can get a good price for a Wilson Contreras, then I'd pull the trigger. But that's a lot of ifs, and what are they willing to go all in? Because we think they want to win to get into the playoffs. I don't think they're at the level yet that they can go balls to the wall, make a move. Like, you have a tradable piece. Ronnie Mauricio is your biggest trade chip. I'm not trading with this trade, especially for a rental. But if Endeavor, you can't burn your best assets. And for next week's draft, big old draft, a big old, bringing a bunch of quality prospects you can develop. That it's the Ep-Dog's first draft. It's his guys. He can find it and start building it in the Ep-Dog model until David Stearns is here in the offseason. Then we'll start again. Then maybe making a Mauricio. Don't want to trade a Brett Beatty, but if an option of a big trade for a third baseman or I'm thinking franchise-altering trade player. There's some options out there. You can pick and choose which one you would think it is. Then you do that. I don't think they're there yet. I think they should try to go in, be a buyer. But I think buying a Kike Hernandez, buying a lower-level bat, maybe try to platoon, find a Jock Peterson type player. That's where they need to go at the deadline. I think if a big player says, hey, there's no trade clause and says, I only want to go to the Mets, Dodgers, and what's it called, then do it. If he's saying, my no trade clause and the Mets aren't on and, I want to go to the Mets, I want to go, Dodgers, Yankees, if it's one of those things, then do it. But I think they need to go more quantity with high quality quantity than going all in on one trade like they did with Javi, where it was just one thing. But that was different. That's a different team than what potentially they are at this year's deadline. If they're running away with the division, like we think they can possibly do, but again, that June stretch is going to determine it. If they're running away and they can get like a Sean Green, even though it didn't work for the 06 team, but a quality of asset like that, I'd do it, but I don't think Contreras is it. For the right price, I do it, but I'm not making this as, oh, that's my big trade deadline acquisition is Wilson Contreras. You throw in a Kyle Hendricks, maybe, make another move with the Red Sox or whatever, and then, it's a group of guys, then I'm all for it. But I don't think the Mets farm system is there yet. Again, we are on, stage 2 of the Dodgers. The Dodgers are over a decade into this of how they just turn out assets. They're on year 10. We're on year 2. We're trying to get like that. But price is right, and all the situations for the Mets go right. I'm not against it. It's just not my number one priority. After all of that mumbling, we'll close it out here. Again, I don't think we'll get to the 2-hour mark, but every show we always do the studs and duds, as that won't, why does this not go away? Piss off. Studs and duds. Obviously, every week we pick our stud, we pick our dud, and then Metsfan makes a beautiful graphic that goes on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. It's above my head when we're not a full-on sucked in on the 4 of us. So we'll start with positivity. Let's start with negativity first. We always end the show with some negativity. We'll start with the duds. I'll start with you, Frank. Who is your dud of the week?
I mentioned him earlier, but I'm going to expand on it. And Carson also mentioned it too, but it's Travis Jankowski. And the reason why is because, like Carson said, the pedal is kind of falling off. The clock is striking midnight. I asked the question, when was Travis Jankowski's last hit? And the answer is May 3rd against the Atlanta Braves. In a doubleheader, he had 2 hits. Since then, Travis Jankowski has not gotten a single hit. And what also concerns me about Jankowski is one thing, let's be like, oh, Frank, that's not fair. Players can still be productive when they're not getting hits. Travis Shankowski is not even hitting the ball out of the infield. I mean, a lot of the hits that he was getting in the first place were infield singles. Like I said, I love infield singles, but I love him as just the guy as pinch runner, late game defense. That's it. But the Mets found themselves in a scenario yesterday where Jeff McNeil got injured running into the wall. He hurt his leg. And then Travis Shankowski, he's the only outfielder we have. So he's the guy that came in and replaced Jeff McNeil. And he did absolutely nothing. So my fear is that if the Mets did, knock on wood, they don't. If they did have any outfielder injuries, Travis Shankowski is the next man up to play the outfield. And I just don't think that his bat is a guy that could be making starts for you on a consistent basis and be giving you offense. Because like I said, this guy's not even hitting the ball in the infield. So if he was hitting the ball really hard, if he was hitting it to the wall, it's like, all right, well, he's hitting the ball hard. You feel like there's signs that he's going to still give you offense production. I'm not seeing those signs. So that's what I'm really concerned about. That's why we talk about Jake Mangum, some of these other guys. Like, the Mets got to look at that. Like I said earlier, be prepared for all scenarios, because if an outfielder gets hurt and it's past the deadline, you didn't add any more outfielders, you might be in a pretty tough spot. So he's my dud.
We got the plum dog. We're fine. Hayden, dud of the week.
Yeah, my apologies. I had some internet issues. Did you guys do studs or?
No, we're doing duds first, then studs. Start with negativity, ending with positivity.
Fair. I like that analogy, especially in May. I'm very negative. I mean, yeah, there's obviously a lot of good guys out there to be duds. Does it have to be a player? Could it be like a manager?
Yeah, we prefer it to be. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a few options.
Because I was going to say Buck Showalter due to some of that bullpen management, but okay, that's fine. I'll go with Thomas Sapucki. Like, I get it. Not many people were like, oh, the Mets are, I wasn't expecting Sapucki to come in 6 innings, like 2 hits, a walk, and like 5 strikeouts. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. But I also wasn't expecting 1 1/3 inning with 9 hits and with 9 runs and 20 hits. That I was not expecting. And this dude just couldn't. I mean, that was Jared. I think that was worse than what we seen with Jared Eichhoff last year. I mean, that was much worse. And I mean, that was a big game to take, that game 3. And I think that in my series strain previewing it, I said that the Mets would take 2 out of 3. I knew that was the game we were going to lose, but I didn't expect it to be that bad. I think that was the game you had to take, considering what happened last night. And Sapucki just threw that out the window. I mean, crazy enough, our bullpen didn't give up a single run. So that's just the Mets' luck. Shit Pucky comes in, 9 runs, and then Williams clean, everyone else clean. So that's just the Mets' luck for you. So I'm going to go Zapaki because you can't rely on this dude. I mean, maybe a bullpen roll down the line, but you can't rely on him much.
Mets fan, who are you throwing in the dumpster?
I'm going to throw Drew Smith into the dumpster. And
But he met a super.
I blame Tony again. But we've talked about this. Everyone misses spots, but he's missing a lot of them. And he has not looked good these past few outings. I'm seeing a lot of vulnerability from his fastball, or excuse me, secondary pitches. And I just, he's got to get it together. That's all I got to say. I'm not worried. Again, barrel machines are very tough. It's one of the biggest deal breakers for especially relievers, guys who give up the long ball. But it's easy to fix. So hopefully there's some adjustments that they can make here. I want to see him somewhat develop some kind of pitch that can be chaseable where he's not spamming the zone. But other than that, I'm going to say Drew Smith, and unwillingly I'm going to say that because I like him. But other than that, yeah. Just do better, you minor league reliever.
Don't suck on the wall.
Don't suck.
I'm going to go with the guy that everyone shit on last week, and I really didn't do it, and that's Dom Smith, because literally he has literally no value. I will give him props. As a tub, he ran out of triple. So I was impressed. He hit one in triples alley, and he got a triple. So respect as a fellow tub. But you bring absolutely nothing. I will quote myself. Dom Smith is a person. Don't know what he does. He's just there in the clubhouse. But yeah, like Metsfan has said on Twitter, oh, he's a great interview. Dom's a great dude. Dom, again, he is a great person, but we are tired of this, chemistry. But again, the Robbie Cano said, because Lindor was the one that said, I would like to keep Robbie. We're done with that. We're done with the, if we're a mediocre team or, you want to keep the guys happy. It's going, well, we're trying to be one of the best teams in baseball. We're trying to win this division and run away with this division. And our DH option, and I get it's been obviously yelling about, you've got a moron on SNY saying, oh, we need a DH that bad. Let's trade Ronnie Mauricio for JD Martinez. That's how desperate we are for production at DH. But the fact is, I'm going to say it until it happens. The fact that we cannot free the Polk dog, who is absolutely raking in Syracuse. And guess what? Has some power potential. Yeah, he's going to swing and miss a lot. But guess what? 1, he can hit a fastball. And 2, when he makes contact, it goes boom, boom. And then on the other side, JD Davis, people on Twitter love him. There's some girls that love him on Twitter. But he did have a 4-hit game, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But even he can kick rocks too, because we can replace him with Syracuse and get him on rookie deals, because Dom and JD making a little bit of money, making $3 or $4 million, and money isn't an issue. But hey, free up about $5 to $6 million. It's a solid bat at or piece of the deadline. Yes, the Cohen tax is putting it for a threshold, but when you can save $4 to $5 million, there's a benefit, and especially when you get Vientos and Polk Dog on $700K minor league or league min up deal, who have higher upside in Ventos' case, but the Polk Dog has hit 28 homers in the big leagues. Like, this isn't like this some random legend down in the minor leagues. With the White Sox, he hit 28 homers in 2019, I believe. I think it was 2019, 28 to 25 homers. But I know he hit 20. He's had some big homer numbers. He got a team of the Tops Now card in 19.
2018, 27.
Thank you. And it was 2018-19. It was one of those pre the world falling to shit. It was one of those years before that. But the fact that we are still throwing out Dom when we've got a Polk Dog and the Vent Dog down in AAA, now both getting hot, or Vento's getting hot, the Polk Dog's been hitting bombs all the time. It's got to be the stud of the week, because you have no value to this ball club. With all the negativity, let's get positive. Let's be butterflies and raindrops and dropping elbows. The goats of the week, the studs of the week, because look at the little goat. We'll start with Tub Tub. Who gets the goat? Who's wearing the crown of the goat?
Well, let's go with the man with the beard, Luis Georme. He's cold-blooded, man. He's our Tim Tuffle, as I like to say. The grit is through the roof, and he's an on-base percentage Chad. Barely strikes out, plays a great defensive game all around. And while we're at it, in high leverage, he's slashing 325, 413, 400 with a 139 WRC plus. Take notes, Escobar, you bum. Respect Luis Georme, or I'll fine you and end your existence. That's all I got to say.
I mean, it's not sustainable because majority of it's ground ball singles. Frank,
He
who's
gets
the goat of
on
the week?
base, you fucking weirdo.
It's not.
God,
We don't
I'll
like
kill
ground
you.
balls. Not sustainable.
Do you want to take this outside?
I'm ready to
You
go.
don't even go
I
outside.
will Winnie the Pooh your ass.
I go outside all the time for your
That out of
information.
context, that's not good.
There you go. More clips. Frank, who's the goat of the week?
I always like to change it up a little bit. So this is a guy that I don't think is being talked about enough. Steven Negosik. This guy has been absolutely lights out so far this season. And he's come through in some big spots where, you have, like we said, those blow-up starts where a guy comes in, he's not pitching well. You need somebody to, do the mop-up duty while also saving the bullpen, because when you have a bad start from a starting pitcher, it's really easy to just tire out your whole bullpen in a game where you're losing by a lot, and you're like, well, now that's 2 losses pretty much right there. But Negosik has come in and not only pitched well, but he's pitched well in these multi-inning scenarios, which I always value, a guy that can give you multiple innings out of the bullpen, and nobody's really talking about it, but he saved the Mets a couple of times in some games, also in this past week, where they didn't have to tire out the bullpen, and it just helps you in the long term. So I think these little outings here or there from Negosik could actually end up going a long way, and it's going to fly completely under the radar. So I got to give him props when I see good performance made.
Hayden, who was the goat of the week?
Yeah, I mean, I know he only made 1 start, but I think it was a very important start, and that is David Peterson. I mean, this dude, I mean, had a pretty solid outing against the Giants, recording a win, 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, a walk, 6 strikeouts. I mean, the fact is this dude gets called up, gets sent down like 2 days later. I mean, I know he's still on the roster, but just tip of the cap to David Peterson. I mean, he really looks good. I mean, we know that he is a completely different pitcher than what he looked like in 2020. He's more light contact, let the infielders do their job, really mixing up his pitches, to kind of so it doesn't, really mixing up his pitches, the change up, the fastball, so it kind of looks different than the slider that's coming off of his hands. So really tip the cap to David Peterson. Love what I've been seeing out of this dude. I mean, I think this dude could arguably, be a number 4 in this rotation. Don't get me wrong. I know last year it happened. He had a good April, good May, and then he was horrible. But give me that. Give me a good May. Give me a first couple good weeks in June, and let Megill come back and do the job. And then let Scherzer and Degrom down the line. And then we could use you in the bullpen. How have I always expressed Peterson in the bullpen as a role? So just give me that. So this week is David Peterson. I know he only made 1 start, but still, I think that was a huge start. And they won that game, right? That was game 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because he got the win. Yeah.
All right. There is an obvious one, which maybe Metsfan can just have his picture in like the bottom right corner of the graphic, which is the obvious choice. But I'm going to push my narrative because Metsfan brought it up earlier already about him starting the rocket of a certain reliever. I've been riding the rocket with you, and the fact that you didn't give me at least, hey, that fat Rhino knew too. Colin Holderman. That's the goat of the week. I'm calling for his head once Trevor May. That was the guy I wanted up. That was the first guy when May went down. That's who comes up. Yeah, again, he got in the St. Louis game. I call it, he came in. I was sitting watching the game. I'm like, Holden, all he needs to do, get the double play, let the run score, and he gets out of it. Boom, double play, gets out of it, and then shithead hits the 2-run homer. Who cares? But he's coming, hasn't allowed a run. Yes, it's still early in his career. He's only done 5 innings. But there's signs that, hey, him, Drew Smith, maybe a few more guys. Maybe the surprise of the Rhino Report. You're starting to see, and obviously we've said no one on this bullpen is guaranteed for next year except Drew. And now if you want to count Holderman, everybody's a free agent. So if the Mets don't go spending, which you don't go spending, let's do a 1-year deal for relievers. You're starting to see some of these homegrown guys starting to maybe start taking spots, a la the Dodgers, when they start letting some of the younger pitchers take over and succeed in the big league. So the stud of the week is going to be Colin Holderman. Should be Francisco Lindor, but I'm going to go with Colin Holderman. A little bit of props.
Bust. He's a bust. Francisco, don't even get me started. I mean, have you seen him?
Have you seen his WRC plus? It's so terrible.
No.
All right.
No, I don't care.
We don't care about WRC plus. We'll do a little outro and we'll get out of here. We'll let Metsfan go cry about, see if the Rangers can not completely come back or choke another game and rally. So we'll do our outros. Let me take off take the goat off, even though the goat is a very cute little goat. Wait. Matt Hayden, what do you have coming to your channel? What do you got coming up for content?
Yeah, I mean, mainly the same thing as always, live streams. Usually been doing 2-3 streams a week. However, things on the channel will be different. I guess I'll announce it now. I will actually be going up to Michigan in 2 weeks to be meeting up with my friend Christian, who I think was in the chat just before, MLB Chatterbox, who also is a fellow YouTuber. Does a lot of baseball things, Mets, Yankees, Phillies, everything. So him and I will be going to a Tigers game, 2 Cubs games, and a Reds game. So definitely maybe some videos about that. That could be nice. But otherwise, nothing else really new. Live streams as always. Hopefully the New York Mets can hopefully get something going against the Phillies Nationals and then going into June. Yeah, let's hope they can get it done. LFGM.
Someone that does content or someone who doesn't record content? The guy that does record content. Frank, we got there on the pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that as we get closer to trade deadline season, maybe even talking about the draft picks that the Mets make, maybe like a video about that, talking about my thoughts on it, because that's coming up pretty soon. So we're getting pretty close to that area of time where there could be a lot of content made, especially if the Mets start losing. If they have that June struggles, then we can get some rage and rant videos in. But it's tough when everything is just all great and positive, and we're in first place, and we have a 7-game lead, and everyone's so great, and our bench is great, so it makes it a little tougher, because there's nothing really to adjust because we're winning, so nobody cares, right? But so I do like to do my streams at least once a week. Would like for it to be more, but this West Coast schedule, this won't be the time it'll happen. So hopefully later this year we can get more things going, but. Let's go Mets, and like we say, the motto is "Don't suck."
Don't suck. Mets fan who doesn't upload. What do you got? Twitter stuff. I mean, I will say your Twitter game is good, but the channel. What do you got?
Why are you exposing me? That's so rude.
Because that's what the Rhino lives for, just to pain.
All right. Well, since I don't have anything going on and I do nothing. I want to talk about Francisco Alvarez right now, who has a double, 2 homers, and a single. So triple away from a cycle. Run, Chungus, run. I don't know if they're still playing.
I think they should be.
Just, he's going to go for it on any ball that he gets hit and play because that's just the type of guy he is. So I'd love to see that. Just don't pull anything. You're the entire franchise. Other than that, Rangers, please play better in the third period. You're getting outskated and it's pissing me off. Other than that, Penguins blew a 3-1 lead. I'm just going to say that one more time because I like it. And get through this June. Just get through it. Survive. That's it. Just don't be dead in the water. If you have a multi-game lead in first place, you did your job. Of course, I'd love to win every game. But hey, you're going to have losses like that. Even though our season has ended 17 times, we're still going to be playing 162. So I understand we got to overreact over to everything because it's hilarious, but we'll be fine, folks. Don't panic. The Mets have never failed before, and we'll be fine.
The Mets have never had
other than that,
on the roster, so we're good.
Other than that, just go Rangers. That's it.
Me, I started a second channel, and there's going to be a lot of content coming. Second channel and even main channel. I'm halfway done editing my reaction to MLB Pipeline's new updated top 100. That should get out if I get on my ass this weekend, latest Monday. Second channel videos. I've got a lot of Penguin stuff coming out, and on Sunday we'll do a live stream on the second channel talking about Double or Nothing because. Yes, this man's winning the AEW title. I don't care. I'm a mark. I know. And then main channel, again, if the Mets make a move, again, because there could be a potential trade for a smaller starter, that'll get reactions. And like Frank said, this is starting soon to be the season where I am most useful. Majority of the time, I'm pretty useless. But now, deadline and the offseason are where I'm actually useful for my channel. But anything breaking news, like other sports, will be on the new Elite Rhino Sports. And yeah. That's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to drop a like, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to all our channels. They're all linked down in the description. Join our Discord. Follow our Twitter, which was above my head, but really can't see it now. That's all linked down in the description below. Every Thursday, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock Eastern. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.